The war room of the Valkyrie flagship stretched wide and tall, its walls covered in star maps that glowed with soft blue light. Commander Zethra stood at the center, his forearms crossed behind his back, as he studied the latest planet on their list. World 783. The humans called it Earth. Around him the War Council gathered, 12 of the Empire's finest military minds, generals who had conquered 47 star systems in the last century. They were the best. They had never lost. "The scans are complete," announced Science Officer Maltic, pulling up images of the blue and green planet. "Water covers 70% of the surface. Minerals are abundant. Gravity is 1.0 standard, which is higher than we prefer, but manageable." Zethra leaned forward, his yellow eyes narrowing. "And the inhabitants?" "They call themselves humans," Maltic continued. "Primitive. No energy shields. No faster-than-light travel. They fight among themselves constantly. Hundreds of separate governments, always at war with each other." The council members clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter among the Valkyrie. A divided species was an easy species to conquer. "Their weapons?" asked General Vornash. "Chemical propellants, nuclear fission, but crude. Nothing that can penetrate our shields." Maltic pulled up images of human soldiers. "They are bipedal, like many species. Soft skin, no natural armor, no claws or venom. Physically weak compared to us." Officer Krell, Zethra's second-in-command, raised one hand. He was younger than most in the room, careful and methodical. Some called him too cautious. "Sir, there is something in the old survey files. Earth was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld in the ancient records." The room went quiet for a moment. "Those records are 10,000 years old," Zethra said dismissively. "Before we had modern sensors and shields. Back then, any planet with weather was considered dangerous." He waved his hand. "What else?" Krell hesitated, then continued. "The oxygen content is 21%. That is unusually high, highly flammable, and the biodiversity is remarkable. The planet has millions of species, many of them predatory." "Predatory to what?" Vornash asked. "To soft, weak humans? If the humans survived, so will we. We are Valkyrie. We are stronger, faster, better armed." Zethra turned to face the council fully. "I volunteered to lead this invasion personally. 50,000 troops, 200 combat vessels. We will take this world in 3 weeks, maybe less." The council members hummed their approval. 50,000 soldiers was more than they had needed for the last 5 conquests combined. It was overwhelming force. "The resources on this planet will fuel our empire for generations," Zethra continued. "The humans will surrender quickly once they see our power. If they are smart, we will let them serve us. If not—" He made a cutting gesture with his hand. Krell spoke again, his voice measured. "Commander, perhaps we should send a smaller scouting force first. Observe their tactics, understand their world better before committing the full army." Zethra turned to his second officer, his eyes cold. "Krell, your caution has saved lives before, and I value that. But this is not a battle. This is a harvest. We are not gathering intelligence on an equal foe. We are collecting resources from primitives who still burn fossil fuels to power their machines." The council voted. It was unanimous. Earth would fall. Over the next month, the invasion force assembled. 50,000 Valkyrie soldiers, each one a veteran of at least 2 campaigns. They were equipped with plasma rifles, personal energy shields, powered armor, and tactical drones. Their ships carried orbital bombardment capabilities that could level mountains. Krell oversaw the preparations with his usual thoroughness. He checked supply lines, medical facilities, communication arrays. Everything had to be perfect. Still, something bothered him about the mission. He could not explain it, even to himself. One evening, he accessed the old survey files again. The ones from 10,000 years ago, when the ancient Valkyrie first visited Earth. The report was brief and written in an old dialect he had to translate. World 783 shows signs of complex life. Oxygen levels dangerous, gravity high, weather patterns violent and unpredictable. Recommend extreme caution. Native species shows unusual aggression. Preliminary classification, Class 12 Deathworld. Do not colonize. Krell read the last line 3 times. Do not colonize. Not difficult to colonize or requires special equipment. Simply, do not. He brought it to Zethra one final time before departure. The commander barely looked at the screen. Officer Krell, 10,000 years ago, we could not survive in water. Now we have underwater cities. 10,000 years ago, we could not breathe methane atmospheres. Now we terraform them. We have evolved. Our technology has evolved. Earth is just another planet. Yes, sir, Krell said quietly. The Armada departed 3 days later, a magnificent fleet that stretched across the stars. Inside the troop carriers, soldiers sang battle songs and boasted about how quickly they would crush the humans. Some made bets about whether the invasion would take 3 weeks or just 2. Krell sat in his command chair on the bridge, watching the stars streak past as they jumped through hyperspace. He pulled up images of Earth again. It looked peaceful from space. Beautiful even. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. He zoomed in on one of the landmasses, a vast jungle, thick with vegetation. Another image showed a frozen wasteland of ice and snow. Another showed a desert of endless sand. Another showed mountains that reached up to touch the clouds. One planet, so many different environments, so many extremes, and the humans lived in all of them. Krell made a note in his personal log, something he would later regret not pressing harder. If humans can survive in all these places, what does that say about them? What kind of species thrives in so many hostile environments? But by then, the fleet was already halfway to Earth, and there was no turning back. The invasion would begin in 4 days. The Valkyrie fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 200 warships, bristling with weapons, their hulls gleaming in the light of the sun. On the flagship's bridge, Commander Zethra watched the blue planet grow larger on the view screen. Begin orbital bombardment, he ordered. Target their military installations, communications arrays, power generation facilities. Make them blind and helpless. The fleet opened fire. Beams of concentrated energy lanced down from orbit, striking targets across the planet. Explosions bloomed like flowers. Military bases disappeared in clouds of fire and smoke. Then the humans fired back. The first missiles came from underground silos, hundreds of them, rising on pillars of flame. They were primitive, slow by Valkyrie standards. The fleet's defensive systems shot down 90% of them before they could reach the ships. But 10% got through. 3 Valkyrie cruisers took direct hits. Their shields held, but the force of the nuclear explosions rattled the crews inside. Alarms blared. Damage reports scrolled across screens. They have nuclear weapons? Vornash said, surprised. Intelligence said their nuclear arsenal was for ground targets only. They adapted them, Krell said quietly, studying the data. In less than an hour, they modified ground-based missiles for space combat. Zethra's mandibles clicked in annoyance. It does not matter. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Proceed with ground deployment. 3 landing zones. The jungle territory they call Amazonia, the desert continent of Australia, and the frozen region called Siberia. Minimal resistance. Krell wanted to ask why they were landing in 3 separate locations, dividing their forces, but he held his tongue. He was second in command. His job was to follow orders. The dropships descended through the atmosphere, carrying thousands of soldiers. Krell watched from orbit as they entered the clouds and disappeared from sensors. The first reports from Amazonia came 30 minutes after landing. Squad leader Treshkal's voice crackled over the communication channel, distorted by interference. "Command, we have secured the landing zone, beginning sweep of surrounding area. Visibility is poor. This jungle is thicker than any forest we have encountered. The heat is extreme, and our suits are struggling to regulate temperature." "Acknowledged," Krell responded. "Proceed with caution." An hour later, the first casualty report arrived. "Command, this is Treshkal. We have lost 3 soldiers. They were bitten by small flying insects. Our medical scanners cannot identify the species or the toxin. The soldiers are experiencing fever, convulsions, and organ failure. They are dead within minutes." Krell felt his blood chill. "You were in sealed environmental suits. How did the insects penetrate?" "They found gaps in the armor seals. The insects are tiny, smaller than our sensors detected, and there are billions of them, Command. The air is thick with them." More reports followed. Soldiers stepping into water found themselves attacked by small fish with razor teeth. A scout patrol discovered what they thought was a log, only for it to explode into motion. It was a massive reptile, over 6 meters long, with jaws that crushed through armor plating. Private Velkor was dragged into the river and never seen again. The medical officer transmitted a growing list of diseases: malaria, dengue fever, yellow fever, leishmaniasis, parasites that their advanced medicine had never encountered. The jungle was not just hostile. It was actively trying to kill them. Australia was no better. "Command, this is Captain Drelltalk in Australia. We have encountered native wildlife. Request immediate classification and threat assessment." Krell pulled up the live feed from Drelltalk's helmet camera. He saw a creature, about 5 meters long, covered in armored scales, with a mouth full of teeth like knives. "It is just one animal," Zethra said. "Use your weapons." The soldiers opened fire. The plasma bolts struck the creature, and it thrashed, wounded, but it did not run. Instead, it attacked, moving with terrifying speed. It grabbed a soldier in its jaws and rolled, a spinning death spiral that pulled the Valkyrie warrior underwater. The soldier's screaming cut off abruptly. "What manner of predator does not flee when injured?" Drelltalk shouted. "These animals do not follow normal behavior patterns." Another soldier died to a creature the humans called a box jellyfish. Something so transparent their sensors did not detect it. Its tentacles carried venom that stopped hearts. Another stepped on a spider barely larger than his thumb. The bite caused massive tissue necrosis. His leg had to be amputated in the field. Krell pulled up Earth's biological database, information they had gathered from human broadcasts. His eyes widened as he read. Australia alone had 21 of the world's 25 most venomous snakes. The continent was deliberately trying to kill everything on it. Siberia presented different problems. "Command, the temperature has dropped to -40 degrees, reported Lieutenant Kreshta. "Our environmental suits are rated for -30. Soldiers are experiencing hypothermia. Equipment is malfunctioning. We need immediate evacuation," Vornash demanded. "How can there be such variation? One landing zone is unbearably hot. Another is lethally cold. On the same planet?" "Earth has extreme climate zones," Krell said, pulling up meteorological data. The temperature range across the surface can vary by over 100 degrees. The humans evolved to survive in all of them. Then, the humans themselves attacked. The first assault came at night in Siberia. The Valkyrie soldiers, huddled in their camp trying to stay warm, did not see the humans approaching through the snow. The attackers wore white camouflage, moved silently, struck from darkness. Explosions ripped through the camp. Not plasma weapons or energy beams, but crude chemical explosives that the Valkyrie sensors had not detected. Humans appeared from the snow, firing weapons, then disappeared again before the Valkyrie could respond. When it was over, 47 Valkyrie were dead. The humans had taken their equipment and vanished into the frozen night. This was a coordinated military strike, Krell said, reviewing the tactical data. They used the terrain. They knew exactly where to hit us. These are not primitives panicking under invasion. These are soldiers. Similar attacks happened in Amazonia and Australia. Small groups of humans, using knowledge of their environment, striking fast and disappearing. They did not fight fair. They used traps, ambushes, hit-and-run tactics. They moved through jungle and desert like ghosts. On the fourth day, Krell compiled the casualty report and brought it to Commander Zethra. His hands shook slightly as he presented it. 347 dead, 892 wounded. We have lost 15% effectiveness in our ground forces. Zethra stared at the numbers. In 4 days? Yes, sir. I recommend we consolidate our forces, pull back from these dispersed positions, and establish a single, defensible stronghold. We need to reassess our strategy. Reassess? Zethra's voice was sharp. We are Valkyrie. We have conquered 47 star systems. We do not retreat from primitives with chemical weapons and poisonous animals. Sir, these primitives are killing us. Not slowly, not insignificantly. They are killing us effectively and efficiently. Earth is not what we expected. Zethra turned away, staring at the planet on the view screen. For the first time since the invasion began, Krell saw doubt in his commander's eyes. But when Zethra spoke, his voice was firm. We increase the orbital bombardment. We land reinforcements. We adapt, just as we always have. This planet will fall. Send orders to all ground commanders. Advance. Show no weakness. Krell saluted and left the bridge. As he walked through the corridor, he pulled up the old survey file again. The one that said, "Do not colonize." He finally understood why. The war was not going according to plan. 3 weeks after the invasion began, Officer Krell stood in the command center, surrounded by screens showing battlefields across Earth. Every screen told the same story. Valkyrie forces retreating, regrouping, dying. The humans had done something unexpected, something that should have been impossible. They had unified. Krell watched intercepted human transmissions, showing their leaders speaking to each other. Nations that had been enemies for centuries were now allies. They shared resources, intelligence, weapons. Languages and borders meant nothing anymore. They had a common enemy now, and they fought as one species. How did they coordinate so quickly? General Vornash asked, staring at the strategic map. They have no central government, no unified command structure. They do now, Krell said quietly. We gave them one. Us. The humans had adapted in other ways too. Krell pulled up footage from a battle in New York. The Valkyrie had thought urban areas would be easy to control. Wide streets, tall buildings for overwatch positions, clear sightlines. They were wrong. The humans used the city like a weapon. They collapsed buildings to create choke points. They flooded tunnels to trap Valkyrie soldiers underground. They set fires that created smoke screens, blinding thermal sensors. Every window could hide a sniper. Every doorway could be a trap. Every intersection could become a kill zone. A full battalion of Valkyrie soldiers went into New York. 38 came out. They know the terrain better than we ever could, Captain Felthar reported, his voice tired. We study maps. They grew up here. They know every alley, every sewer, every hidden passage. We cannot match that knowledge. The rural areas were even worse. In the countryside, humans fought like predators. A farmer could be a soldier. An old woman could throw a grenade. Children guided them into ambushes. Every human is a combatant, Krell observed during a tactical meeting. Or they can be, at any moment. There is no safe zone, No civilians we can ignore. Their entire population is militarized. The humans had also learned to use captured Valkyrie technology. A crashed dropship would be stripped for parts within hours. Plasma rifles were studied, copied, improved. The humans were shockingly good at reverse engineering. What took Valkyrie scientists years to develop, humans figured out in weeks. Worse, they were creative with it. They attached Valkyrie power cells to their own weapons, creating hybrid guns that combine the best of both technologies. They used Valkyrie shield generators to protect their vehicles. They even hacked the Valkyrie communication network, listening to every order, every plan. But it was the planet itself that killed the most soldiers. The diseases were endless. Valkyrie medics identified over 200 different pathogens that could infect them. Bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi. Earth's biosphere was 4 billion years old, and it had developed countless ways to break down organic matter. To Earth's microbes, Valkyrie flesh was just another meal. Entire squads would fall ill overnight. A water source would be contaminated. Food supplies would spoil with alarming speed. Something called rabies was particularly terrifying. Once symptoms appeared, death was certain. Soldiers lived in fear of the planet's small mammals. Krell read medical reports with growing horror. There were flesh-eating bacteria that consumed tissue faster than they could heal it. Viruses that mutated faster than vaccines could be developed. Earth is not a planet, one medic wrote in his final report before dying of sepsis. It is a biological warfare laboratory that has been running for billions of years. On the 29th day of the invasion, Krell received the worst news yet. A forward base in the Congo, housing 3,000 soldiers, had gone silent. When scout drones arrived, they found nothing but abandoned equipment and empty buildings. 3,000 soldiers vanished. Later intelligence suggested they had been surrounded by human forces and chose to surrender. But the fact that they surrendered at all sent shockwaves through the fleet. Valkyrie soldiers did not surrender. It was not in their nature, not in their training. But Earth had changed them. Krell compiled the casualty reports for Commander Zethra. The numbers made his stomach turn. 23,000 dead, 12,000 missing, presumed captured or killed. That meant less than 15,000 combat-effective soldiers remained, from the original 50,000. In less than 1 month, they had lost 70% of their invasion force. This cannot be correct, Zethra said, studying the report. His mandibles clicked nervously, a habit Krell had never seen in his commander before. Recheck the numbers. I have checked them 3 times, sir. The numbers are accurate. Then we bring down the orbital fleet. Full bombardment. We burn their cities to ash. If we cannot conquer them, we will eliminate them. Sir, they have anti-orbital weapons now. Last week they destroyed 2 of our cruisers, using modified missiles with captured power cores. Our fleet is vulnerable. Zethra slammed his hand on the console. Then what do you suggest, Officer Krell? That we retreat? That we admit defeat to primitives who still use combustion engines? Krell met his commander's eyes. Sir, I suggest we acknowledge that these are not primitives. These are survivors. Earth is a Class 12 death world, and humans are the apex predator of that world. Apex predator? Vornash laughed, but it sounded hollow. They have no claws, no armor, no venom. No, Krell agreed. They have something worse. They have endurance, persistence, adaptability. Do you know what I learned from their historical records? Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They would chase prey for days, never stopping, never resting, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would kill it. He pulled up data on his screen. They can run for hours without rest. Their bodies are designed for it. That 21% oxygen content, it fuels muscles that can sustain activity far longer than ours. Their bone density is higher because of the gravity. They are physically stronger than us, pound for pound. That does not explain their tactical superiority, Zethra said. Their brains, Krell continued. Humans are pack hunters, social predators. They evolved to cooperate, to communicate, to plan together. That is why they unified so quickly. That is why they coordinate so effectively. It is in their nature. He showed footage from a recent battle. Human soldiers working together with perfect synchronization. Hand signals, covering fire, flanking maneuvers. It was poetry written in violence. And they bond with anything, Krell added. I have seen human soldiers risk their lives to save injured comrades. I have seen them form attachments to animals, to machines, to ideas. They fight not just for survival, but for each other. That makes them unpredictable, dangerous. Zethra was quiet for a long moment. What are you saying, Officer Krell? I am saying, sir, that we made a mistake. We judged them by their technology and assumed they were weak. But strength is not about plasma weapons or energy shields. Strength is about survival. And humans have been surviving on this death world for 200,000 years. They are better at survival than we are. The alarms went off before Zethra could respond. Red lights flashed across the bridge. Human attack force detected, a sensor operator shouted. Multiple spacecraft approaching the fleet. They are using our own engine designs. Krell pulled up the tactical display. Dozens of human ships, crude but functional, were rising from Earth's surface. They had built spacecraft from captured Valkyrie technology. In less than a month they had gone from ground-bound primitives to space combat. All ships, defensive positions, Zethra ordered. Destroy those craft. But the human ships were small, fast, and numerous. They dart between the larger Valkyrie vessels, launching kinetic weapons and missiles. 2 more Valkyrie cruisers exploded, their shields overwhelmed. Krell watched it happen and realized the terrible truth. The humans were not going to stop. They were not going to surrender. They were going to fight until either they won or everyone died. And they were very, very good at not dying. The desert sun beat down on the last Valkyrie stronghold with merciless intensity. Officer Krell stood on the fortification wall, looking out across the Sahara Desert. 8,000 soldiers remained from the original 50,000. They were surrounded, cut off, and dying slowly. The humans had given them this position deliberately. Let them choose the Sahara as their final stronghold. It seemed defensible, flat terrain, good visibility, nowhere for enemies to hide. But the Valkyrie had not understood. The desert was another kind of death world. During the day, temperatures reached 50 degrees Celsius. Environmental suits struggled to cool their wearers. Soldiers collapsed from heat exhaustion. At night, the temperature dropped below freezing. The same soldiers who had been overheating now shivered in the cold. Sand got into everything. Weapons jammed. Equipment failed. Vehicles broke down. And the humans attacked in both extremes during the burning day and freezing night. They were adapted to it. This was their world. Krell received the transmission at dawn on the 48th day of the invasion. Commander Zethra was on a patrol of the perimeter when it happened. A single shot from over 2 kilometers away. Impossible range for a chemical propellant weapon, they had thought. But human snipers had been practicing for centuries. They knew wind, gravity, distance. The bullet found its target with perfect precision. Commander Zethra died instantly. Krell became commander by default, the highest-ranking officer left alive. He stood in the command center, looking at his predecessor's empty chair, and felt the weight of responsibility crush down on him. Orders, sir? General Vornash asked. The general had lost one arm in a bombing 3 days ago. He looked old now, exhausted. Krell accessed the communication channels. Reports flooded in from all sectors. Ammunition low, food running out, water supplies contaminated, medical facilities overwhelmed. 20 soldiers died from disease in the night. 15 more committed suicide rather than face another day in the heat. He pulled up the strategic map. Human forces surrounded them completely. 50,000 humans, maybe more. They were patient. They could wait. Time was on their side. "We need to understand what we are facing," Krell said quietly. He accessed the human data networks they had been monitoring. "I want to know everything about humans, their history, their culture, how they think." What he found terrified him more than any weapon. Humans had nearly gone extinct multiple times. Ice ages that covered continents in ice. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun. Plagues that killed half their population. Yet they survived. They always survived. Humans fought each other with horrifying frequency and creativity. They invented weapons specifically to kill each other more efficiently. Gas attacks, biological weapons, nuclear bombs. And then they created rules to limit how much they killed each other. The Geneva Conventions, laws of war. Krell read the Geneva Conventions with growing horror. These were not rules of conduct. These were limits humans placed on themselves, because without them, they would destroy everything. The conventions banned certain weapons, certain tactics, certain behaviors, things that humans considered too far. If these were the limits, what existed beyond them? He found human entertainment. Movies, books, games. So much of it was about war, violence, survival. They trained their children to think tactically through games. They celebrated warriors in their stories. Their heroes were always fighters, survivors, people who refused to give up. And they had domesticated wolves. Pack predators with powerful jaws and killing instincts. And humans had turned them into pets, into companions. They called them dogs and treated them like family members. What kind of species befriends its predators? Krell whispered to himself. A dangerous one, he realized. A species that saw everything as either a resource, an ally, or a challenge to overcome. Humans did not simply survive in harsh environments. They conquered them. They climbed mountains because they are there. They dove to the deepest oceans. They would probably try to walk on the sun if they could figure out how. A communication came through from the human forces. A woman's voice, speaking perfect Valkyrie through a translator. "Valkyrie Commander, this is General Martinez of the Earth Coalition Forces. We are offering you terms of surrender. Your soldiers will be treated according to the Geneva Conventions. Medical care will be provided. You will be held as prisoners of war until diplomatic negotiations determine repatriation procedures. This offer expires in 24 hours. Krell stared at the communication channel. Surrender? The concept was foreign to Valkyrie military doctrine. They fought to victory or death. There was no middle ground. But looking at his remaining soldiers, sick and injured and dying, Krell wondered if pride was worth all their lives. "Open a channel," he ordered. "I want to speak with General Martinez." The human appeared on screen. She was older, with gray in her hair and scars on her face. A veteran. Her eyes were hard, but not cruel. "General Martinez, I am Officer Krell, current commander of the Valkyrie forces. I have questions about your terms." "Ask," she said simply. "Why offer surrender at all? You have us surrounded. You could destroy us." Martinez was quiet for a moment. "Because your soldiers are following orders, just like mine. Because even enemies deserve dignity. We invaded your world. We killed your people." "Yes," Martinez agreed. "You did, and you will answer for that. But there is a difference between justice and revenge. We are not monsters, Officer Krell. We are just very, very good at war." The transmission ended. Krell sat in silence, thinking. That night, the sandstorm hit. Humans called them haboobs, walls of sand and dust that can strip flesh from bone. The Valkyrie sensors detected it too late. The storm consumed the stronghold, plunging everything into darkness. And in that darkness, the humans attacked. They must have been preparing for weeks, waiting for the perfect storm. They came from all sides, using the sand as cover. Explosions rocked the fortifications. Buildings collapsed. Soldiers fired blindly into the storm, hitting nothing. Krell tried to coordinate a defense, but communications were jammed by the storm. Units were cut off, isolated, surrounded. The stronghold was falling apart. All units, retreat to the landing zones, Krell ordered into every channel. Evacuation protocol. Get to the shuttles. Of the 8,000 soldiers in the stronghold, only 200 made it to the shuttles. The rest were dead, captured, or lost in the storm. Krell ran through the sand and wind, helping wounded soldiers, firing at shapes in the darkness. The shuttles launched one by one, struggling to gain altitude in the storm. Krell watched from his own shuttle as the others were shot down by human anti-aircraft weapons. Fire bloomed in the dark sky. His soldiers screamed over the communication channels as their ships fell. His shuttle made it to orbit. Barely. The engines were damaged. The hull breached in 3 places. Emergency seals held, but just barely. In orbit, the situation was even worse. The Valkyrie fleet was shattered. Half the ships were destroyed or drifting hulks. Human spacecraft, crude but effective, harried the survivors. The flagship was burning, atmosphere venting from massive holes in its hull. Krell tried to dock with another cruiser, but it exploded before he could reach it. Human torpedo, modified with Valkyrie warheads. The shuttle was thrown spinning by the blast. All around him the fleet died. Ships exploded. Escape pods launched and were destroyed. The communications channels filled with final messages, prayers, screams. Krell made a decision. He input coordinates for the nearest jump point. His shuttle was not a warship. It was small, damaged, but maybe it could make the jump. Maybe he could escape. The jump drive charged with agonizing slowness. A human ship approached, weapons locking on. Krell diverted all remaining power to the drive. The shuttle's life support failed. The temperature dropped. His breath came in frozen clouds. The jump drive reached minimum power. Krell activated it. Space twisted. Reality bent. The shuttle fell into hyperspace half a second before the human missile arrived. In the eerie silence of hyperspace, Krell looked back at the sensors. They showed Earth, small and blue and beautiful. Around it, the remains of the Valkyrie fleet burned like dying stars. He was the only one who escaped, the sole survivor of an army of 50,000. Krell set course for Valkyrie space and collapsed in his seat. In 3 days, he would arrive home. He would have to tell them what happened. The High Council chamber was silent as Officer Krell finished his report. 12 of the most powerful leaders in the Valkyrie Empire stared at him with expressions ranging from disbelief to horror. 3 months had passed since the invasion. 3 months since Krell escaped Earth alone. "You are saying," High Counselor Vextar spoke slowly, "that 50,000 of our best soldiers were defeated by a pre-spaceflight civilization in less than 2 months?" "Not defeated, Counselor," Krell said, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "Destroyed. There is a difference. Defeated suggests we lost a battle. We lost the war. Completely." He activated the holographic display, showing Earth rotating in the center of the chamber. "We did not invade a primitive world. We invaded a Class 12 Deathworld, and we invaded the apex predator species of that world." Krell continued. "Let me explain what a Class 12 Deathworld means. Earth has experienced 5 major mass extinction events in its history. Events that killed 90% or more of all species. Asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, climate shifts that would sterilize most planets. Yet, life survived, and humans are what survived." He pulled up geological data. Earth's gravity, is 1.0 standard. For reference, our homeworld is 0.87. Every human grows up in higher gravity. Their bones are denser, their muscles stronger. A human child can overpower most adult Valkyrie in physical combat. A council member scoffed. Physical strength means nothing against plasma weapons. You are correct, Krell agreed, which is why humans do not rely on strength alone. Earth's oxygen content is 21%. Our atmosphere is 15% oxygen. That extra oxygen fuels their muscles, their brains, their endurance. Humans can run for hours without stopping. They can fight all day and all night. They do not tire the way we do. He showed medical reports. Earth's biosphere is 4 billion years old and has developed billions of microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, parasites that we had never encountered. Our immune systems were not prepared. We lost more soldiers to disease than to combat. Earth is not just a planet. It is a biological warfare laboratory that has been testing and perfecting killing methods for eons. But their technology, another council member protested. You said they were primitive. I said they had not achieved faster-than-light travel, Krell corrected. That does not make them primitive. It makes them patient. In the time it took us to deploy, they reverse-engineered our technology. They studied our weapons, our ships, our tactics. They learned faster than we could adapt. He showed footage of human soldiers using hybrid weapons, combining Valkyrie and human technology. They are tool users at a level we did not anticipate. More importantly, they are creative. We think in terms of doctrine and established tactics. Humans improvise. Every battle was different because they constantly invented new ways to fight. Krell pulled up human historical records. Let me tell you about human history. They have been fighting wars for their entire existence. Not just tribal conflicts, world wars, global conflicts where hundreds of millions died. They invented weapons of mass destruction and used them on each other. Nuclear bombs, chemical weapons, biological warfare, and then they created rules to limit how much they killed each other. He displayed the Geneva Conventions. These are not peace treaties. These are limits humans place on themselves because without them, they would exterminate everything. The fact that they need such rules tells you what exists beyond them. And they broke none of these rules when fighting us. They followed their own laws of war, even against invaders from space. High Counselor Vextar leaned forward. What are you saying, Officer Krell? That they are more civilized than we thought? No, Counselor. I am saying they are more dangerous than we thought. They have mastered violence so completely that they have created philosophy around it. They understand war better than any species we have ever encountered, because they have been perfecting it for 200,000 years. Krell changed the display to show Earth's biodiversity. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They would chase prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. They did not kill with venom or claws. They killed with endurance. They never stopped. That hunting behavior is still in them. When we invaded, we became their prey, and they hunted us with the same relentless persistence. He showed footage of human soldiers working together. They are pack hunters, social predators. They evolved to cooperate, communicate, and plan as groups. That is why they unified so quickly. Individual humans are dangerous. Organized humans are unstoppable. They have turned cooperation into an art form. Moreover, Krell continued, humans bond with everything. They form emotional attachments to other species, to machines, to abstract concepts. They domesticated wolves, apex predators, and turned them into companions. They keep dangerous animals as pets. They feel empathy for their enemies even while killing them efficiently. This makes them unpredictable and adaptable in ways our tactical computers cannot model. The council chamber was silent. Krell could see the fear in their eyes now. They were beginning to understand. Counselors, Humans have done something we never expected. They have eaten food that would poison us. Capsaicin, a chemical weapon from plants. Humans eat it for pleasure. Alcohol, a literal poison. They drink it socially. Theobromine, toxic to most species. They put it in desserts and call it chocolate. He let that sink in. They consume toxins recreationally. Their world is so dangerous that they evolved to eat poison and enjoy it. High Counselor Vextar looked shaken. What do you recommend, Officer Krell? I recommend we classify Earth and its entire solar system as a forbidden zone. No Velkari ship should ever approach it again. The humans have our technology now. They have studied our biology. They know we exist. We cannot fight them. We can only hope they choose to leave us alone. What if they do not leave us alone? Another counselor asked quietly. What if they come for us? Krell had been dreading this question. He pulled up the final piece of data. Recent scout reports from the edge of Velkari space. They already are, he said. The holographic display showed a spacecraft. Human in design, but incorporating Velkari engine technology. It was heading toward Velkari territory, moving faster than should be possible for a human ship. They built this in 3 months, Krell said. 3 months after we invaded, they have spacecraft capable of reaching our territory. They learned from us. They adapted. They improved. A transmission played in the chamber. A human voice, speaking perfect Velkari. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Coalition Starship Unity. We are transmitting on all Velkari frequencies. Earth wishes to open diplomatic relations with the Velkari Empire. We understand there has been conflict between our peoples. We propose a meeting to discuss terms of peace, reparations, and future cooperation. We are ready to talk. The message was polite, professional, diplomatic. But Krell heard what was not said. We learned your language. We know where you are. We can reach you. We are ready. They are coming not as conquerors, Krell said quietly. They are coming as equals. They want to talk because talking is more efficient than fighting. But make no mistake, if we refuse, if we show aggression again, they will be ready. They are always ready. He pulled up one final image, Earth from space, blue and beautiful and deadly. Counselors, we made first contact with humanity in the worst possible way. We attacked them. We killed their people. We gave them a common enemy and forced them to unite. We taught them they are not alone in the universe. We showed them the stars are within reach. Krell turned to face the council directly. We did not conquer Earth. We did something far worse. We taught humans to reach for the stars. And now they are coming. The council voted within the hour. Earth would be designated a forbidden zone. No contact would be initiated. If humans wanted to talk, the Empire would listen. But there would be no more invasions, no more wars. Krell stood alone in the observation deck that night, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were spreading through space, learning, exploring, growing stronger. He thought about General Martinez and her offer of surrender, the dignity she had shown even to invaders. He thought about the human soldiers who followed rules of war even when fighting aliens. He thought about their capacity for both extreme violence and unexpected mercy. A new message arrived on his personal console. It was from Earth, addressed specifically to him. He hesitated, then opened it. Officer Krell, this is General Martinez. We have been informed by our intelligence that you are the sole survivor of your invasion force. We wanted you to know that the soldiers who surrendered are being treated well. They will be returned to your people when diplomatic channels are established. We also wanted to tell you something. War is terrible. We know this better than most. But war does not have to be the end. It can be the beginning of understanding. We hope to meet you again someday, as friends rather than enemies. Humanity remembers those who show wisdom. Good luck, Officer Krell. Krell stared at the message for a long time. Humans offering friendship to the alien who had helped invade their world. It was so unexpected, so strange, so very human. In the distance, a star flared brightly. Krell knew it was probably just a supernova, but he imagined it was a human ship, jumping to hyperspace, going somewhere new. The galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer confined to one world. They were spreading, exploring, becoming something the universe had never seen before. And Krell, sole survivor of the Earth invasion, knew one thing with absolute certainty. The universe was about to become a much more interesting and dangerous place. Somewhere out there, humans were learning to reach the stars, and they were very, very good at learning.